as I was saying, welcome everyone to week 80 of the economy update. Time is definitely flying. Past 80 weeks now, we're well on our way to 100. I'm sure, who knows, we'll see where it takes us if we can reach like 200, 250 and maybe 1,000 eventually, who knows. But anyway, how are you today, Stephen?
I'm great. How are you after your trip to Bali?
Actually Thailand, but I mean, I see what you, after being there, I see what you mean, why you love Thailand so much. Like the cost of living is so much better there, the climate, even just the culture there is much different to here in Australia, and it just feels a lot more freer. I don't know how to explain it, but it opened my perspective to why you and a lot of other people are considering a move there or like basing yourself there.
Yeah. You know, I've been going to Thailand for, God knows, 40 years. How old am I now? 30 years, and at least 30 years. And running up and down, going in and out, live there on and off, for the last, up until COVID, so 8 years before that, had a villa, moved on, would look to get another villa there again. Magnificent place. Especially depending on where you go, there's I like Koh Samui, but anywhere on that Serathani Peninsula or Serathani area, Pattaya, Rayong, then there's Phuket. I like the beachy places and that. There's a lot of places right up to Chiang Mai, up in the border up there. I'm not a big fan of the mountain stuff. I do like Chiang Mai. Chiang Mai is the second largest city in Thailand. It's quite a nice city, and especially the garden stuff that's out around it, further out that you get. Thailand's great. And look, Thailand's a kingdom. It's the only kingdom that's never been conquered in the last 5,000 odd years. It's lost some land, being Laos and Cambodia, for instance, bit of Myanmar, where Myanmar is. But other than that, it's pretty much a sovereign nation and has remained a sovereign nation for quite some time.
Yeah, and you can definitely feel like the difference in the energy there as well. It does feel a lot more free than somewhere like Australia. And we've got a few people saying they're in Pattaya, like Jeff is in Pattaya, Billy is visiting there next month. So it looks like everyone's got the same idea. But I think the thing that really opened my eyes was the difference in cost of living, because like somewhere like here, you would go out to a pub, pay about, if you get, say, a burger with a drink, it might cost you about $30 or something. Over there, you can pretty much have 3 meals with drinks for roughly the same price, a little bit more, probably around $35 or something, and you've got your whole day covered with your meals, whereas here it's just one meal. So
I can remember going, my first trip into Thailand was when I was back in the Navy, so quite a while ago. And beers were like 45 cents, for a long neck, the big long neck beers. So the 750 mils, it was costing us like 45 cents or something. It was just ridiculously cheap. And the kids used to come around and collect all the bottles. And we had fun. The Philippines is good as well. I really like the Philippines.
For sure. Even transporting yourself, like hiring a scooter there or having a scooter and paying for fuel, you're really only spending about $10 a day or somewhere near that price, $12 a day on pretty much going wherever you want.
Mate, I used to get a van. So I'd get a van and a driver, and it cost me $50 or $60 a day, when we needed it. It cost you nothing. Local taxis and that sort of stuff don't cost you a lot. And it's good. Uber, is it Uber? No, not Uber.
I use Grab.
Grab, yeah.
So, if you see me like in one of these economy updates in Bali or Thailand, you'll know exactly why.
100%. Go for it.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll get straight into the economy update. So once again, guys, welcome. It's great to see you guys on here. I'm glad we can all share this moment with Thailand. I think we all share that in common, that is a lot different to Australia. Once again, we're on week 80. Time is flying. And for those of you that are new to the economy update, or those that have been here before, we'll be following the normal structure, which is updating on news around the Australian economy for the first 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so, depending how long it goes. Once we do that, we'll then take questions and move on to the global economy. And if we don't have any questions, we'll just keep moving forward and covering whatever we need to. So as we talk, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll get to them once we've finished our points. But without further ado, the first point we'll get straight into for the Australian economy. And we actually briefly touched on this probably about 2-3 weeks ago, where there's been a bit of talk around governments that the Labor Party wants to increase the number of politicians that are working in Canberra. They want to do this by 30% and increase the number by that number. So can you just share their reasoning behind this based on what they've been saying? How would it look if it was...
So this is so in the budget was the increasing of the public service, right, and the staffers to politicians, right? So that's already been granted. That's already going on. Every member of Parliament gets one extra staff member out of this budget, and plus all their staff can go to Canberra rather than just one or maybe two going to Canberra. What this is coming about, and it's still in white paper stage, so it's still in talks, but it is part of Labor's manifesto. Meanwhile, I think you'll find the Liberal Party and that will support it as well, because it means that they pretty much gain more seats in places like Queensland and to some extent WA. So what they're doing is they're looking at increasing the size of the elected members by 30%. So that's 50 people in the lower house. So an extra 50 seats Australia-wide in the lower house and an extra 24 senators, right? That is huge. Because don't forget, whenever you increase, so to have a member of Parliament, and then, sorry, I'll go back a step. Their rationale behind this is most electorates now have got 100,000 electors in, right? So they range between 90 and 110. 1,000 people, and they're saying, oh, that's too many people that, for a politician to look after. Pig's ass, right? A lot of the other countries around the world have a lot larger population per elected member. The UK, I think, is 150,000 per member, depending on electorate. But it's definitely not. What it's really about is Labor think that by doing this, they can gerrymander the electorates to favour them, to keep them in power. And the coalition will be doing the same thing. They'll be lobbying and trying to work out the gerrymander, trying to work out the boundaries to get the best representative view. Meanwhile, every member of the lower house will have 6 staff, right? So you've got their officers, right? So not just their own salaries, right, and all the perks and everything that go along with it, but you're going to have 6 staff members extra. You're going to have extra officers needed. So there's probably going to be I can't remember if there's spare officers in Canberra on both sides to actually house everyone. So you're probably going to have renovation works at Parliament House. You're going to have extra security detail. You're going to have extra staff in Canberra to hold. So basically, this is just blowing up the public service that is around the entire parliamentary system. It's just crazy. Then with the senators, so you get another 24 senators. So I'm not sure what the spread will be on 24 senators, but it's pretty much going to be probably an extra 3 or 4, probably an extra 4 per state, and an extra 1 or 2 for the territories. So you're going to have just a lot more people. Now, what that will bring in the Senate is a lot more a lot more independents and third parties, because what will happen in places, say Tasmania gets an extra 3, where you need basically 4 people and a goat to be elected to the Senate. Yeah, it just means that you're going to need less people. So your quotas are going to be less to get elected. So at the moment, it's quotas about 11%. But if you're adding more people getting elected every time around, that 11% all of a sudden becomes 8%, right? And so that's minuscule, and makes it easier for minor parties to get elected. Now, that can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing. It could also mean that we could end up with, in some places, like Victoria, a bit of a lockout in Labor seats, because Victoria is moving to that left thing. So you're going to end up with more Greens and that sort of stuff in the Senate. So this is just, it's once again, it's politicians looking after politicians. It goes to show you that they don't trust the people, that they want more numbers, right? And they want more numbers to try and create and swing everything their way. So this is not a good policy and a good outcome for the people. We should be going the other way. We should be culling politicians, and we should be culling the staff and culling the sitting days and all that sort of stuff. I don't. The thing that really, and once again, so you got more members, you're going to probably have more sitting days, you're probably going to have more turnover of bills. The problem we've got with Parliament now is they truly believe every time they sit, they've got to introduce a new bill to be seen to be doing something. Well, what about redacting bills? What about taking bills out of circulation? Actually having I think the UK did it. Was it the UK or what one? I can't remember which. No, it might have actually been New Zealand. No, it was the UK. It was the UK under Thatcher. Had I can't remember, was it once a term or once in every now and then they would have a sitting that was to repeal bills. Didn't last long, because that's not sexy and doesn't get you headlines when you're repealing bills, but taking someone's freedom away by introducing a bill gets you the headlines in the media. So what Parliament should be doing is every bill that they bring to Parliament should be accompanied by 10 bills that they've got to repeal. But, that's never going to happen. When our Parliament was first formed, there would have been, say 100 bills. Now there must be, 20, 30,000 different statutes. It's just ridiculously large, the bills. So.
Well, because I think you were talking about it's not only by doing this and increasing the number of public servants in government, you were mentioning about how it's not only their wage that we have to factor in towards paying, but it's also their office spaces as well as some other benefits that come with it. So how much money roughly do you think would be allocated towards that? Like how much extra money would they need to come up with?
Even though it's a 30% increase in the size of Parliament, I would say it's probably a 50 to 70% increase in the amount of money they've got to spend. It's not just okay, we increase it by 30%, so our budget to run the politicians and Parliament House will go up by it won't. It will go up by I reckon a good 60%. Let's land on that. So the budget, Parliament's budget, will go up by 60%, and for a 30% increase in the number.
And is that going to come from taxpayers' money, or is it going to come from spending less money in other areas?
Well, government's money only comes from taxpayers.
Yeah.
Right. Government doesn't make money any other way. So government only makes money out of taxing and levying individuals and companies, right? So at the end of the day, we always pay. The taxpayer in this country always pays, always. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes. So, so this is just another increase on the budget. And now you imagine another 50 members of parliament. They're all going to want pork barrelling for their local electorates. But not only that, and this is, I'm just running this through my head. So come election time, right? We all know that every vote a member gets over 4%, right? They get a dollar amount for. So now you've got an extra 50 members out there, and if we just look at it this way, you've got an extra 20 Liberals, an extra 20 Labor, an extra 10 crossbench. I'll just be right. So they will actually, even though the pool of people voting is still similarly the same, but because they're actually getting more starters, right, in the field, you're actually going to have to put more money in, right, to cope with having to pay the individuals as well. So where for instance, you might have had in one seat, you might say if one seat got split to two, because now there's an extra member in that area, well, where that seat might have only had, say, the local member take 60% of the vote, then the rest was split between two or three other people that got more than 4%. Now that could get, so what could happen is Liberal and Labor being the largest two could end up with more, right, in the percentage, and the minor parties end up with less because they won't reach the 4% mark. Because now, because if you look at it, you got 100,000 people split into two, 50,000 people. When you work out the percentages and the numbers, the Liberals and Labor will take more of the overall pie. So this, look, there'd be a lot of work gone in about this, how it benefits Liberal and Labor, 100%. And because Labor's proposing it, Labor would have done a lot of work on how it's going to benefit them the most. So.
And we had a question come through from Christine. Does that mean they would change the electorates or more members per electorate?
No, change the electorate. So there'll be more electorates. Right. So at the moment, we've got, 152 lower house. That'll become 200.
Mm.
So there's going to be more electorates. Just less electorates, less electors or residents, people that can vote per electorate. But they'll fill that up with immigration. We know over the next two years, actually the next 5 years, the number that they want to bring in is astounding. It's close, it's like 4 million people or something stupid, because of all the reunifications and all this sort of shit that can go on in the background. So there's actually quite a lot of damage can actually be done to the country by this, and you could end up with a lot more stalemates too. A lot more bills that should get passed not getting passed, and so forth.
Definitely. Well, we'll move on to the next point now, which sort of follows on from what we're talking about here in terms of with the Australian government, but pretty much with everything going on in the federal parliament, so with what we're seeing on the topic we just spoke about, as well as Labor passing a lot of laws and living by double standards and lies, as everyone can see, and also the coalition being divided on their own policies, do you think we're seeing a further decline in the trust of government from the people?
Hugely. We've seen all the double standards around the Brittany Higgins case in down in Canberra. We've got senators that have blatantly lied to Parliament being protected. We've got collusion between members of Parliament, right, to gain political points on different things. People are looking at this going, this is just stupid, right? And now it's actually making things like sexual assault. It's making things like even general crime, just getting to the point where people just have no trust that government will fix anything. And this is what we've said. The decline of a nation in a big way starts when trust in government really, really disappears. And we're starting to see that all over the world. We're starting to see that in the US. We're starting to see it in the UK. Have a look at Scotland, with, the old Scottish leader being arrested over a scandal. There's stuff just happening all over the world that is just eroding any trust, any belief in our political system. And what tends to happen here is once this happens as well, you tend to slide to the lowest common denominator, right? So people get fed up and then don't want to fight and all that sort of stuff because it's, what's the point? But those that do tend to be the ones that push the worst ideas, right? That the rowdy minority, the transgender movement, the climate change people, right? When you actually have a look and really delve into the numbers, it's all been pushed by minorities and always been pushed by minority groups. And when we can cut out those minority groups, you actually start to get to a sensible position on everything, right? But what happens is at the moment, when you get all this double standard, when you get infighting in the parties, there's infighting in the coalition, there's infighting in the Liberals, there's infighting in the Nationals, but there's huge infighting in Labor, right? They just hide it very well, right? The factions in Labor are really starting to ramp up. The things at the moment that are going on, that Daniel Andrews is supposed to have come out to his deputy and said, build your team now because I'm stepping down, right? He wouldn't be doing that if he didn't think his legacy was going to get broken up by someone else from a different faction in the Labor Party becoming premier. So there is a Labor war happening in Victoria now because the writing's on the wall. I think I mentioned this before, that Daniel Andrews will go, right? And will go. The Palachuk up here, she will go because they know that the pitchforks are coming. And most of the pitchforks are actually coming from inside their own party, right? It's the union movements that have been screwed over by these people during COVID and all that sort of stuff, that because they did the right thing. They did what they were told to do, put mandates on, stop people from working and do this and divide and conquer. Now they're not getting their payback from the leaders that they were promised. So watch the infighting bubble away and erupt, especially in Queensland, WA and Victoria. The Labor Party, it's going to be a volcano, which is going to be really cool to see.
Yeah, and then we'll be having plenty to speak about on this economy update when that happens.
Oh, yeah. So watch this space. There's going to be some interesting stuff happen over the next probably 6 months. He'll probably, my view is he may go just before Christmas, in that October-November period.
Well, we'll move on to the next point now, which is we have been talking a lot about, especially in the economy updates, we tend to focus more on the problems happening around the economy. But to switch things up, what we're going to do to take a more balanced approach is actually have a look at some of the positive of the economy to kind of take another perspective so people can actually see it and not feel completely insane. So from your perspective, what you've been seeing according to stats and news around the economy, what are some genuine positives that are happening here in Australia?
Yeah, so just out and about talking to people and just people in my own network and listening and reading between the lines of some of the small business stats and that are coming out, there's some actually really good things happening underlying in the economy. Small businesses are finding ways to stay profitable. They're finding ways to keep in front of all the crap that's out there. Some small businesses, and I think I mentioned it on here, one of the ways that to get through this is join with other small businesses. Right? There is small businesses out there that are banding together to solve problems. One of the things that I was talking to an accountant, it's an American process, and I'm really looking at it at myself because I love the idea, and it's called Profit First, and it's a Profit First accounting thing. And I was talking to this small business owner, and it was a husband and wife team, and they said, we switched to this because we wanted to look after ourselves and our kids and our charity and our staff, and didn't know how to do it. So it switched to this profit first system. It basically means that you take a little bit of profit out of your business. So you get paid $1,000 or $100, you take $2 out and put it into a profit account. You take some more out for your owner's compensation, then you take some more out for this, and then what's for your taxes and other things and subcontractors and all that you got to pay. Then what's left is what you have to pay your bills on. So it forces you to look for savings. It forces you to go out there and streamline your systems and processes in business. Now, at the same time, I've started hearing, and on one of the TV shows, I can't remember what it was, I was one of the doctor surgeries I was in, had it on, and it caught my eye that it was people are doing what I've been saying for a while, is finding extra revenue streams, right? And some of these extra revenue streams are renting out a bedroom in your property. One of the guys had converted his garage. It had a shower and toilet in it already, converted it into a little studio apartment, and is renting that out. Because a lot of the states now are starting to change their granny flat rules, right? So, I think it's Northern Rivers, as long as there's no fixed cooking, like fixed gas stoves and that sort of stuff in, you can pretty much have a second dwelling space, made out of a carport. So things are like this are changing, and people starting taking advantage of it. It's fantastic. The people are, curbing what they're spending, changing their habits, realizing that you can go to Aldi rather than here, or you can go to your local grocer and buy beef and stuff, meat in bulk and cut it up between people and all this. So there's all these little things that people are actually working out themselves, and I find that really, really good. But once again, it's sort of happening on the fringes of cities. It's not happening downtown in cities where you real wokey lefties, government's got to save me types live. But definitely on the outer fringes and all that sort of stuff, that's where this is happening. And it's really good to see. And look, I would say to everyone out there, really have a look at your expenses. Look at what you're spending money on. Look at if you can save 5-10% over a month, that's a huge amount. And then you can start save half of that, and then build up your emergency funds and build up all that the sort of stuff that we've talked about. So no, there is a lot of good stuff happening out there. Some people are panicking still, but just stop and think. Don't rush into do anything, and don't do anything too hastily. Some of the worst decisions I've made in business and personally is when I've become really worried about the outcome of something, or really worried about a process or something, and then made a decision based on that worry thought, rather than clearing your head, finding your mentor, finding someone you can talk to and talking it through. A lot of times when you talk it through, you find your own solutions, right? And you find your own path that helps you get to wherever you got to get. So you sort of work your way through it in your own head. So, no, I'm seeing some good stuff.
I think it's good to hear that, because it's easy to get caught up in the negativity, especially when you've got a lot of things going on. So having a look at some of the positives and things that we can actually celebrate always helps kind of make us feel a little bit more grounded and sane.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And look, the number one thing to do is turn off social media. Turn off social media, or turn off everything that is negative, right? If it's, and because you can go into social media and block people and all that sort of stuff, and just have the streams that give you the balanced view, right? Don't just all have one side, right? But you do need a balanced view on what's happening. But you can tone down the negativity, because we get bombarded with lots of negativity sells, right? Negativity keeps people frozen in fear and then in control. So go out there and turn it down, or just turn it off. Turn the TV off. If you can't get rid of the Kardashians straight away, well, watch one Kardashian show and then replace it by one History Channel show, or something like that, and change, so you get a balance of what's going on.
For sure. So and yeah, like Christine says there, don't listen to whinges and fear. So
yeah,
be mindful for you listen to.
Yeah 100%. So yeah.
But,
and look, what we're doing on this economy update is, I don't want to build fear, even though sometimes we hit the negative. It's more about being aware of what's happening out there, right? And it's making sure that you're aware of these things, because some of the things that we bring up most aren't in the media, right? Try and find some of the stuff that we talk about in the frontline media. That's because they don't want it known about, right? But then at the end of the day, we've got to balance that with some good, interesting, hard truths that you can go and follow and do, and take actions to make it happen.
For sure. Well, it doesn't seem like there's any questions so far on the Australian economy, but that wraps up all the points we had covered for the Australian one. So if you guys do think of anything as time goes on, either put it in the Q&A box and we'll get to it at the end, or feel free to email it after this and we can cover it in next week's economy update, whichever's best. So we'll now move to the global economy, and as always, starting off with the fan favorite Trump watch. Can you give us the latest update around what's happening with Donald Trump, especially more focused around his polls, how that's trending, as well as his popularity?
Oh, man. Once again, he got indicted, as we said a couple of weeks, last week and numbers went through the roof again. He spiked up as high as 60% in one of the polls, was carrying around 58% in one, but where he really is at the moment is 52, 53%. This is of GOP primary people, mind you. DeSantis now has slipped back a little bit. He is, I'm just trying to think. DeSantis now is around 17, 18, maybe 20%. I would say a solid 18%. And then everyone else tails off, 2, 3%, maybe 4%, 1%, 0.0%. So it's really Trump's to lose. One of the theories coming out of the US, out of guys I've been talking to over there, is that this could be building up to be a Trump-DeSantis campaign. Now, personally, I think that would be a waste of DeSantis. My personal view is I think DeSantis should run as hard as he can to build a name in the states that are away from Florida, where he doesn't have a big name now, and fundraise really hard into a super PAC now for this. Let Trump take the next 4 years, and then DeSantis come out after his governorship finishes in 2026, and then have 2 solid years of campaigning into an 8-year term as president, because he's only 44, 45, you know, 40, mid-40s. So he's got plenty of time, and he could build up a huge war chest between now and the 2026 election. 26, 28.
Yeah.
2028 it'll be. Sorry, 24. So 26 his term will be up as governor. So 26 then running for the 28. So that could be that's really what I think DeSantis should do. Whether he does it or not, who knows? Because to run a presidential election, you need to raise $1.2 billion. So you, the party, and you're supporting PACs, political PACs. PACs in the US stands for political action committees. So yeah, it's like you need a lot of dough to run for president. So.
And we're also seeing Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., coming to Australia. So is there any reason for
that? Yeah. So it's a promotional tour. He's coming out. I think Nigel Farage is coming out with him at the same time. I've already got my tickets to go and see him. I'll be there waving the flag. Joel at Turning Point Australia is putting on the show and is doing a really good job. So if you want to go and see it, guys, I would suggest go out and buy your tickets and come along and support. And don't let the lefties. Don't go to. I wouldn't go to the Melbourne show, because I reckon that's where the real bad protest stuff's going to be, because Melbourne's full of lefty loonies. So I'm going to the Brisbane show, and so it should be really, really good. I'm looking forward to it. So.
Yeah, well, on to the next point, which is now onto the US and China. So there's now trade talks between the US and China. It's being held in Beijing, where the US Secretary of State, Anthony Blinkin, is currently in Beijing. And the main reason he's visiting there to talk with the Chinese president is because to mend relationships from the incident 5 months ago with that spy balloon, but it's also to work through the tension of what they're talking about with trades. So can you give us a bit of insight into what this whole meeting is, and is there anything that the media isn't reporting on with it?
Yeah, look, there's quite a bit going on. He's supposed to meet Xi Jinping was it today or tomorrow? Today's Tuesday, so I think he was supposed to meet Xi Jinping today. He met with his counterpart. He met with one of the trade officials and that sort of stuff. A lot of this will also be getting in-person briefings from the intelligence agencies from the embassy about what's actually happening on the ground and happening, what's happening around Xi and all that sort of stuff, and getting just finding the lay of the land. When's Xi going to end up with a lead breakfast one morning, and who's likely to take his place, and all that sort of stuff. So. This is more than just trade talks. There'll be a lot of strategic stuff happening from the State Department side of things there. Plus, you got to remember that China and the US have a lot of trade. Like, they do a lot of trade between each other. The US buying goods, China buying componentry. A lot of these sanctions that are put on are just stupid shit. That you think that they're big on the surface, and when you look at it, but when you scratch the surface and have a look, they're really nothing. There's a lot of backdoor stuff that can happen and all that sort of stuff. But what this is really about is keeping the channels open between the two major powers, and the US trying to exert its dominance over China, but not to the Chinese, right? To the supporters back in the US and around the world, who think that the US is going to be the dominant empire forever, right? That's what this is more about. These punching bag scenarios that you see in the media are all about that, all about the US trying to continue its dominance around the world. And we all know that that's not happening, and there is a slide into the new empire. The new empire is the BRICS. We're starting to see the BRICS grow in numbers. I'm trying to think. I think it was Argentina officially joined the other week. They were always a soft member, but I think they officially signed up. We know Saudi Arabia is part of it. There's nations in Europe now. Nations in Eastern Europe that are looking to join the BRICS. So we all know that the move to that group is happening. The new empire is moving that way, and it always does. It's a cycle. China was 5,000 years ago the centre of the world, centre of trade, centre of invention, centre of a great civilization, and it's been pushed backwards, in recent years by communist ideals. But so that's an interesting play. So watch this space about the communique that comes out after this trip, and the more that it says that they got stuff done is more about making sure both sides keep face, with their supporter base.
It's all about popularity.
100%. Politics, and especially global politics, is more about popularity than anything else.
Yeah. And now we'll move across the world to Ireland, where good old Ireland, the Irish Greens Party now are coming out saying they believe that people's rights and freedoms should be taken for the common good. And as we all know, when you hear stuff like that, it's clearly a communist belief. But it's one thing to joke and laugh about it. I mean, that's all you can really do. But when you actually listen to what they say, it's just completely absurd and quite surreal, in my own opinion. So do you think there's going to be any action taken from this belief, or is it them just kind of having their speech?
No, I think the Greens parties in Europe are actually gaining some traction. Not so much that they will be, a major force, especially in Ireland, won't be a major force. Sinn Féin will probably be the major force in Ireland for a while now, but they exert influence and they push these ideals and that sort of stuff. But when I actually watched the speech that this woman gave, I couldn't believe what she was saying and how she was saying it. She truly believed in her heart of hearts that laws and her view trumped everyone else's view for the common good. This term common good, it's a massive socialism, thing, because Stalin used it and starved 40 million people in Ukraine, starved 100 million people throughout the Soviet Union by taking food off people and rationing everything for the common good. China did the same thing, got rid of religion for the common good, murdered heaps of people. Pol Pot, pretty much every dictator, Mussolini, Franco, pretty much any dictator in the world, if you go through their speeches, when they're trying to claim and say why they're doing something, it's always for the common good. And it's never for the common good. The only person that it's good for is the person in power, the dictator, right? A lot of the corporatized religions of the world and the activist groups in the world are taking on the same language. They're not necessarily using the term common good, but they're definitely using terms that are around that ideal to push over their ideas. Things like the rich need to pay their fair share, right? Whenever you hear that, one, the person doesn't pay tax. Two, that they have no idea who pays the tax already. The rich in countries like Australia, the US, Canada, the first world countries of the nation, they pay the majority of the tax already. to allow them to have their freeloading lifestyle, right? So when you hear these terms, be very, very afraid of what the person's really saying. And we're starting to see it in, like, I think we brought it up the other week about the same job, same pay, right? Some of the language that's been used in that is, it's for the benefit of everyone. Well, it's not. It's going to lower the wages. It's going to lower the standard that you'll get in the employee base. The Voice is a prime example of some legislation that is, trust us, it's for the good of everyone. Well, no. It's for the good of a select few individuals who will control that portion of the economy, or that portion of the nation. So when you have people standing up in parliaments giving speeches along these lines, the reason that they can give those speeches is because they're in countries that allow the differentiation of speech, freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom of movement, freedom of whatever. But when they're saying that, and people are taking them serious, that your rights have to be taken because of what I want to happen, that's very, very dangerous. And it's a I know the term slippery slope. I don't like to use that, but it's a very, very bad start to where something will happen if it goes back to what we said before, where it's always the minorities who yell the loudest to push stuff through. So be very careful of listening to politicians and activists that start using this language, because the more, and academics are terribly, terribly biased at using those sort of languages. So.
And then, as Aidan says, at this stage, even the Catholic Church will turn against them, and they want to kill 200,000 cows.
Yeah, I know. How stupid is that? They want to kill 200,000 cows, get rid of, forget what it was. It's like 8,000 farmers will lose their jobs in a country that basically is an agrarian society. So, yeah, it's crazy, crazy stuff.
Yeah, and we have a question here from Jeff. How many more rate hikes do you think are coming for Australia?
Given that this is the rate hike thing now is more political, that it's becoming a political tool by the Reserve Bank. I think we've probably got another 2 or 3 where I thought we were nearing the end. I really did. And the Treasurer and Albanese's basically big fuck you to the Reserve Bank in the budget, and the way that they've treated the Reserve Bank governor pretty much says that the Reserve Bank governor is going to retaliate. And what can he retaliate with? He can retaliate with interest rates. That's not good for us, everyone out there that requires this sort of stuff. But it is, it's definitely going to be another couple. Maybe not all at once. They're probably. So we had one in June. We may have one in August. They may go neutral to see if there's any effect of the rising interest rates, which means, did the government pull its head in? And they haven't, because they've just announced this, was it $2 billion for social housing? And a lot of this money is unfunded, so it's got to come from somewhere. And they keep pushing money into the off-balance sheet columns and moving money into the unfunded area post the budgetary period. It's probably a long-winded way of saying 3.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that with the news. So, doesn't seem like there's any more questions, but do you have any fun facts you want to share with anyone today? Or I noticed you didn't have anything listed, but anything come to mind?
No, I didn't have anything really listed because I've been running around, and the silver linings took one of the interesting facts off. One of the things that I'm getting heavily into is alternate podcasts. So podcasts from people that have really interesting ideas around a particular topic. For instance, I'm getting into Gary V or Gary Vaynerchuk around his marketing stuff. I've been listening to Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules and all that sort of stuff. I went back over Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant and that sort of stuff. Ray Dalio's principles. I even, and this is the alternate stuff coming out into me, went and there's a guy that's put some of George Soros's quotes and stuff out there, and it really goes to show you how evil that gentleman was. And actually, over the last week, he's handed over to his son, Alex, not his elder son. This is the middle son, I think, Alex, who is very, very political. So it goes to show you that he skipped over, I think it was, his elder son is very business orientated and not political. And he basically gave control of the family fortune to his politically active son, who's basically said he's going to do everything to be political. So that's a very telling way where Soros wants his money spent in political activism and that sort of stuff. So, and you got to. A lot of people think that George Soros is one of the evil cartel. Yeah, he may have but he's just a very political activist with a lot of money. Similar vein to the Koch brothers or the Koch brothers on the other side of the political fence, and then the Hunt brothers before that. So there is a lot of guys with politics, a lot of money that they throw at politics and a lot of money that they throw at activism because they think it's the right thing to get behind. So. I'll just put in there, don't confuse activism, right, and the active engagement of pushing an ideal for someone who's pulling strings, right? Where we are in the world now is the pulling strings to get the wheel or the snowball going is gone, it's past, it's finished. We're now in groupthink, huge mentality driven ideology of pushing the agenda, because enough people now actually truly believe it as a religion. Climate change is now believed as a religion. Wokeism and all that stuff around gender and that is now starting to be believed as a religion or along the lines of religion and of mass psychosis in people. So what we're seeing now is the efforts of 30 and 40 years of changing our political and education systems.
Mm. And speaking of religion, we did have a question here from Aidan about your take on the World Economic Forum, so Klaus Schwab and Noah Harari wanting AI to rewrite the Bible to make religion more correct.
Yeah, look, that's just pure bullshit. It's like, well, how can you make a book of stories that are literally just stories written by people over 5,000 years? Because some of the writings of the Bible actually go pre-Christ. If you actually go right back into the Sumerian texts, that and rewrite it with AI. All right, it's just you're basically just starting to just show yourself out to be a one-sided idiot and all that sort of stuff. I do think that AI is going to have good and evil, and everything does. If you have a look at it, you need a yin and yang. I think that you've got to be very careful on AI and which AI you're using, because we know that the Google and the Bing AIs have been corrupted. They've corrupted the original GPT model. I'm waiting for I can't remember which model it is in the GPT lineup, but one of them they're going to put back onto the internet at some point in time. So GPT or Open, what do they call it? Open AI is the one that Elon Musk helped found with a donation early on in its life form. One of the other things to watch is Elon Musk's Neuralink and how much AI starts to go into Neuralink, because that could be a very, very interesting thing. So Neuralink is basically a chip in your head, so which I wouldn't be going anywhere near. I'd rather play a dummy than have that put up in my head. So yeah, not a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. And we also had a question here from Jeff. What are the implications of the de-dollarization process that seems to be moving forward at an expanding rate?
What do you mean by de-dollarization? The use of the US dollar as a currency, or the cashless, going cashless? If it's stopping using the dollar as the reserve currency and currency for trade, that's been happening now for 20 years. It's only going to get more and more as the BRICS and the new empire takes over. Once that gets into full flight, which I expect will happen over the next couple of years, where we see China already has the chip system, which is the new SWIFT, and it's in full flight. They're using it now. They're doing settlements between China, Russia, Saudi Arabia in oil and steel and a whole heap of other commodities, which has been settled in their local currencies. Saudi Arabia uses the renminbi, Russia uses the ruble, and China uses the renminbi as well, or the RMB. So we're seeing that happen now, and you'll see more and more BRICS nations start to do it, because that basically means that they don't have to transact or do anything through the US banking system. Why would you, why would you aid, if you want to use the term, aid the enemy? So, or aid your competitor.
Yeah. Well, that seems to be all of the questions. Unless anyone has any more, I'll give you guys a couple more minutes to write them. I just wanted to quickly share about some plans, because we do have some webinars planned for the next few weeks. So just keep an eye on your emails. You'll get plenty more information from us. I'm not sure what your thoughts are, Stephen, on the Heritage Act, because we covered the farmers, what's happening around the WA farmers a few weeks ago, and they're now going to be passing a Heritage Act around early July. So that's going to take full effect, I'm sure, on farmers, and we do want to help a lot cover that topic. So especially farmers out there, there'll be a lot more content coming around that for some training of ways to navigate that. So stay tuned for that. And while we have you here, Stephen, did you have any thoughts on it that you wanted to share?
Other than what I've already said, plus the more and more you look at it, the more and more you go, it's just evil legislation. It is truly evil legislation. It's just shit. It is, put it this way, it is what the voice will become and more, right? So if you take what that legislation is and just double it, take how New Zealand operates, and and exploded. And the reason I say that it's bigger is because Australia's bigger, economy's bigger than just WA or just New Zealand. When it's applied to our entire economy and our entire landmass, it becomes a pretty epic position. And it's been drafted in a way that it's going to target a lot of people. So,
do you think it will target more than just farmers eventually?
Oh, well, it does. So anyone who has a block of land, 1,100 square metres or more, is open to it. Property developers, home users, if you got an 1,100 square metre block or 1,101 square metre block, or whichever way it goes, and you want to do something on it, you're going to apply with the Act, right? So, the service industry that'll be created around this legislation, the KPMGs, the PwCs of the world, they're rubbing their hands together because they're just going, oh my God, we're going to get so much work out of consulting with people to get around this legislation. So.
Yeah, and when you're not careful, it is a really frightening time. Like, it's not just that you have to worry about, but there's plenty of other topics going on, like what we've covered today. And even while you were saying with The Voice, there's so much happening. And have you noticed, like, what's the general feel you've noticed with people around you and just people in general? Are they feeling fearful at all? Are they feeling traumatized or anxious? Anything you're noticing?
In my immediate circle, most of us, we're just taking it one day at a time and running through anything that hits us in the head, and dealing with that. No anxiety or fear or anything like that. It's just realization that this is where we're at. There is people out there that are worried, and that's for sure. There is people out there that are anxious, especially the ones that have believed everything, especially off the back of COVID, like through COVID, off the back of COVID and all that sort of stuff. And they're starting to see the cracks in the people that they idolised, like the Brett Suttons of the world, the Murphy, the Dr. Murphy, the chief health scientist. They're starting to see all the cracks around this stuff now. And it's not so much that they're fearful and that. Some of it's regret that they actually gave in so easy. I have seen that, and I've spoken to people about it. Like, one of the comments was made, I can't remember where I was, and on the TV come that there's an ad to get your top-up COVID booster, right? And one of the people there, I can't remember whether it was a male or a woman, basically said, I'm never going to trust the government again on that topic. I feel that they blatantly lied, right? And this is someone who actually thought that that they were doing the right thing, right? They obviously thought that they thought they were doing the right thing, getting protected and all that sort of stuff. And now that they just feel blatantly lied to, their trust in government has been shattered, but that shattered their world, right? So their whole world was this belief in government, the government's good, it won't do anything to harm me. That's just, shattered. So they now have no trust in sort of authority and all that sort of stuff. Trust in our police, trust in our public sector has basically been eroded as well by people who thought that they were there to look. So yeah. A lot of it's realization, I would say, more than anxiety and fear.
With the common people, I couldn't agree more with you. I've kind of noticed that a lot of people seem to be a lot more sober, and especially in a hypersensitive world that we live in with everything going on. I'm sure you can agree that mental health is one of the most important things to take care of, because really, at the end of the day, all you can really take care of is control what you can control, and it's one of the most important things to be aware of.
100%, 100%. Look after your noggin, you know.
And that kind of leads me to what I was going to do, because it was more of a spontaneous decision, because after Thailand, myself and Warren, we have got a very interesting story to share with everyone, but I don't have time to go through it today. It really opened both of our awareness on mental health through, all I can really say is, a fucked up experience for both of us for about 30 hours. Those of you that know Thailand, you would know that cannabis over in that country is now 100% legal. You can pretty much see cannabis on every corner of store. And those of you that are familiar with what cannabis is like, we made this very smart decision to have one full brownie rather than taking it in doses like you're supposed to. So essentially we 4 times overdosed on eating cannabis. And all I can say is the next 30 hours, like, I was basically living in a mental asylum. But after I came out of it, I noticed how much cleaner I felt, and just getting rid of anxiety that I didn't even know I had. How much greater focus I have and more ready I am to face whatever's to come. So I would really encourage everyone to come to that, because we're going to be giving really good tips and lessons that we both learned through that whole experience. If nothing else, just come along and listen for a good laugh, because we'll be sharing the whole story and what we actually went through, and giving our lessons that we learned from it. And outside of that, once you get in a good headspace, the rest kind of will take care of itself. Like, we've also got trainings planned, like I said, on how to navigate common law rights with the Heritage Act, especially for property owners. And we've got a couple more things planned, but I won't spoil that just yet. We'll send that to your email over the coming weeks. But I'll put the link in here for you guys to check out the interview that we're doing tomorrow. Like I said, I'd encourage everyone to come listen to that to get some really good tips out of it. If nothing else, you'll come for a good laugh and listen to our story. I'm not sure if Warren's shared it with you, Stephen, but it was a whirlwind, that's for sure.
Not yet. I'm yet to get that story.
Yeah, we'll have to share it with you.
Definitely.
Well,
all right, guys.
That's it from me. Any final words from you, Stephen?
No. Just go out there, look after yourselves. As we always say, take one small action step, and if you can, it might be worthwhile coming along to the Trump Jr. event, even if it's just to see Nigel Farage. I'm probably looking more forward to Nigel than I am Trump Jr. So.
Yeah, well, for those of the people that are going to come to, where do they get tickets? Just Google it.
Yeah, it's Trump Live or TrumpJuniorLive.com.au, and go from there.
Yeah. All right. Well, once again, thanks, Stephen, for your time. Thanks again, everyone, for attending and staying till the end. We always appreciate your engagement. And I'll see everyone either at tomorrow's interview, or I'll see you in the next economy update at the same time.